7 p.m. when the facts speak for themselves. Just like that. The hard facts. 8 p.m. where India comes first. Always. The right stand. 9 p.m. where the big stories are simplified. Bite by bite. Prostax. 10 p.m. Worldview. Indian Insight. Vantage. News 18 Prime. Weeknights 6 to 11.
Good evening, hello and welcome. You're watching The Nation at 5. I'm Anusha Soni. Our top focus this hour is the visit of US President Joe Biden in Tel Aviv. Hours after an airstrike killed about 500 people at a hospital in Gaza Strip, mostly women, children and injured refugees who had taken shelter there. The visit of US President Joe Biden has once again sent messaging to the entire world. The Arab world is very concerned about the sort of casualties that have been caused, most of them civilian. At the end of the day, it was doctors and hospitals, children and women who were under attack. The Israeli Defense Forces have denied any kind of responsibility for this attack. According to them, it was a missed rocket or a missile from Hamas who missed its target and landed at an hospital. On the other hand, the Palestinian government has also taken a strong position and said it is the Israeli Defense Forces who are responsible for the deaths, about 500 people who are dead. This is the single biggest event that has claimed about 500 lives, which has happened in one stroke, and of course, it has caused concern across the world. Let's listen in to this audio that has been released by the Israeli Defense Forces and some voices.
بقول لك أول مرة بنشوف الصاروخ زي هيك والشظايا هذه، فبقول لك تبع الجهاد الصواريخ الجهاد الإسلامي هاي.
إيه؟
فهم بقولوا تعاون الجهاد الإسلامي.
إنه من عندنا هذا؟
شكله من عندنا
مين اللي بيقول هيك؟
بيحكوا إن الشظايا تبعت الصاروخ إنه الشظايا محلية مش زي شظايا
إيش بتقول؟ سبحان الله من عندنا ما رجعش غيرين بجرسلي.
عاد هذول تلاقيهم من المقدرة الورا دي بثلاث محط فيهم. ايش المقدرة؟ بتلاقيهم طالعين من المقبرة الورا المستشفى المعمداني دي اللي هو فسه ونزل عندهم.
هو في مقبرة ورا؟
المعمداني ولك عند الساحة بالضبط.
هي وين لما تدخل على الساحة؟
أول ما تدخل على الساحة تدخلش على البلد عيدك اليمين في مستشفى المعمداني.
عرفتها.
Well, let's also take you through the big claims that have been made by the Israeli Defense Forces and what they have said in their defense. Let's cut across. No evidence of a direct hit on Al-Ahli Al-Arabi, that particular hospital that was hit, and about 500 casualties that have been caused. There is no structural damage to the nearby buildings, which means that it was a targeted attack that was carried out. No craters are consistent with an airstrike. They're basically talking about the kind of evidence that can be gathered to figure out how exactly and who exactly carried out this attack. Hamas realized it was an Islamic Jihad misfire that has caused these kind of deaths. Hamas launched a campaign with the inflated number of deaths, and the argument of Israel is that because there was the visit of US President Joe Biden, which was happening in Tel Aviv in Israel, this kind of attack has been carried out. 450 rockets have been fired from Gaza and have fallen short. That's the word coming in from the Israeli Defense Forces. Let's also listen into some reactions.
We confirmed that there was no IDF fire by land, sea or air that hit the hospital. Second, our radar system tracked rockets fired by terrorists from within Gaza at the time of the explosion. According to our intelligence, Hamas checked the reports, understood it was an Islamic Jihad rocket that had misfired, and decided to launch a global media campaign to hide what really happened. They went as far as inflating the numbers of casualties. They understood with absolute certainty that it was a rocket misfired by Islamic Jihad. There are two independent videos which show the failure of the rocket launch and the continuation of rocket flight towards the ground within the Gaza Strip, falling in the hospital compound. We have intelligence, some that will be shared here, of communication between terrorists talking about rockets misfiring. The terrorists realize that the rocket has misfired and made specific reference to the Al-Hali al-Ma'dani hospital.
All right, we'll try and connect with experts on the story and what exactly does it mean, this conflict between Hamas and Israel that has only escalated and caused several casualties on both the sides, and there are no signs of this war coming down in the next few days. And with the sort of attack that has happened on this particular hospital in the Gaza Strip, it has only increased tensions in the nearby areas, including the country of Lebanon, where the U.S. has sounded an alert and has said that U.S. citizens should not visit Lebanon, and if they are there in that country, they should exercise due caution. It only points out that that particular region right now is on a high alert, and the violence can spill over to the neighboring countries as well. That's the fear. We'll try and connect with experts, diplomats, and get more voices on the story as to what this conflict in West Asia really means and how is it going to progress in the next few days. Let's also listen in to what Joe Biden, US President Joe Biden, said while on his visit to Israel.
Americans are agreeing with you. They really are. And Americans are worried. Americans are worried because we know this is not an easy field to navigate what you have to do. The explosion at the hospital in Gaza yesterday. And based on what I've seen, it appears as though it was done by the other team, not you. But there's a lot of people out there who are not sure. So we've got to overcome a lot of things.
And just as the civilized world united to defeat the Nazis and united to defeat ISIS, the civilized world must unite to defeat Hamas. I can assure you, Mr. President, Israel is united to defeat Hamas. And we will defeat Hamas and remove this terrible threat from our lives. The forces of civilization will prevail for our sake, for your sake, for peace and security in our region and in the world.
While U.S. continues to maintain its unequivocal support to Israel, and U.S. has maintained that this was not an attack that was carried out by Israel, towing the line that has been put out by the country and the Israeli Defense Forces. This noon here Indian Standard Time, there was a press conference also that was carried out by the Israeli Defense Forces, and they very categorically said that they're not responsible for these strikes. Abhishek Jha with us on the broadcast. Abhishek, the visit of U.S. President Joe Biden, the question is, how is this conflict really going to be contained? Is it going to escalate in the next few days? The future clearly is uncertain. Abhishek.
Well, while Prime Minister Netanyahu was expressed his, thank and gratitude for President Biden to having visited Tel Aviv and expressing solidarity, at the same time, this is an opportunity lost also because President Biden is not going to have a summit-level talk in Amman, where apparently Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas and Egyptian President Fattah al-Sisi all were supposed to be there, and they were about to broker some kind of, way ahead how to deal with the crisis situation which is escalating with each passing day. We already seen yesterday after this massive tragedy that has happened on the Gaza side, the hospital attack which killed almost 500 people. There have been escalation from in the entire region. There have been violent attacks on Israeli consulate in Turkey. Then the Hezbollah militants have also fired on the Israeli locations in northern Israel. There is condemnation from around the world, though Israeli government has continued to maintain that they are not behind the attack, and it could be possibly
Abhishek, can I request you to please stay with us on the broadcast? I want to bring in Mr. Ashok Sajjanar, the former diplomat, also into the discussion. Mr. Sajjanar, the visit of U.S. President Joe Biden and the unequivocal support of U.S. to the country of Israel, that continues to be the dominant position from day one, and that has continued to be so. But the attack on the hospital in Gaza Strip and 500 people losing their lives, it's a turning point in the narrative in this particular war.
Yeah, you're right. It's a turning point. But, if you look at it from a dispassionate perspective, it would be very unlikely that Israel would bomb that hospital. Because as it is, it knows that this international uproar over the condition of the people in the Palestinians in Gaza, that has been growing, that has been increasing. So it would be, in any case, would be very, very careful. It's been giving, extending deadline after deadline for the Gazans from the Gaza city and from the north to go down south. So I would have imagined that it would be very, very strategically very immature of Israel to have done anything of that sort. And that sort of a thing, you cannot place it above either the Hamas or the Islamic Jihad, because for them, life has no meaning. We've seen it, what they have done to 1,300, 1,400 people, in civilians in Israel, in the various kibbutz in Israel. They have massacred them, they have butchered them, and they are holding 200, 250 people, as they say, the Hamas themselves.
Mr. Sajjanar, is there no mechanism, international mechanism, and of course there's a blockade along the Gaza Strip that's an issue, but often in instances like this, the key question or the key concern comes out to be that, is there an international mechanism or laid out norm through which one can really figure out what exactly happened? Israel is blaming Hamas, the Palestinians are saying it's actually Israel which is responsible, and 500 people have lost their lives. Are there mechanisms that exist under the international law to figure out who exactly is responsible?
I think there will definitely have to be some sort of an investigation. Which agency conducts that investigation, I think we'll have to see. Some sort of a, United Nations affiliated organization, if that is there. And, Israel has come out very openly and said that this is not air assault. This is not an air attack. This is not a missile that has gone and hit. There is some sort of a bomb blast from within that has occurred. The walls of that hospital are still standing. So, it appears very, very unlikely that it could have been a missile attack from, far away, which would have come and which would have destroyed. And as I said, I will not hold it above either the Hamas or the Islamic Jihad to do this, to gain the sympathy, further gain the sympathy of the international community, particularly the Muslim world. And they seem to have been, without any conclusive evidence having come against the Israelis. They have, to an extent, succeeded in their objective by the cancellation of the meetings between King Abdullah II of Jordan and of, Mahmoud Abbas of Palestine, etc., etc. But I think saner voices really need to come into the picture rather than taking knee-jerk reaction, off-the-cuff reaction, and saying that, Israel is involved. I think Israel is being very careful. Of course, they are very clear that they have to obliterate, they have to exterminate Hamas.
The rights of civilians, women, children under the international law are very important, and whether it's Israel or Hamas, the right questions must be asked by the world as a community. And that is why you had the Prime Minister also saying that the loss of civilian life is a matter of concern. Prime Minister Modi, after on 2 occasions reiterating complete support to the country of Israel in this hour of crisis, also said that the humanitarian side of this conflict also needs to be looked into. My colleague Siddhant Mishra, in an exclusive conversation with Israel's PMO spokesperson Alon Levy. Listen in to this conversation.
The government of Israel, IDF, has to say, in fact, they have come up with video evidence, technical evidence, supporting their claims that this was a work of Hamas groups on that side. There is no involvement of IDF or any other unit of Israel. I want to know for you, do you really think that the strike on hospital is going to be a turning point in this ongoing war between Israel and Hamas?
Let's be clear. There was no Israeli airstrike on that hospital. None. Fake news, complete fake news. What happened is that a rocket fired by Palestinian Islamic Jihad inside the Gaza Strip misfired and landed on that hospital, like 450 other rockets fired by Palestinian terrorist groups inside the Gaza Strip that fell short over just the last 12 days, hitting inside the Gaza Strip. Now, the world is right to be outraged by what we saw yesterday, the images inside the Gaza Strip, but that outrage should be directed at the terror groups that are committing war crimes, first of all by targeting Israeli civilians with their missiles, but also by hiding behind Palestinian civilians, using them as human shields. And we saw the horrific results just yesterday, although we're still trying to understand what exactly happened, how many people were injured, because it's clear that Hamas dramatically inflated and exaggerated the numbers at the beginning. But what happened yesterday was a Palestinian Islamic Jihad rocket misfired from inside the Gaza Strip. They shot it from a cemetery behind a hospital. The shrapnel landed on a hospital. That is why people are dead. And Hamas alone is solely responsible for all those terrible, tragic civilian casualties inside the Gaza Strip.
Okay. So President Biden is in Tel Aviv. He's holding talks with Prime Minister Netanyahu. Perhaps both leaders came in front of media where President Biden supported Israel, and perhaps he also said that it was work of the other group. So perhaps he's also convinced with what Israel is saying. How do you look at the support of President Biden, especially in these times where there is immense pressure on America for a ceasefire? There is immense pressure on America for
President Biden's support is extremely important for the state of Israel as we respond to the October 7th massacre, the worst terror attack in world history after 9/11. We're very grateful for the support and the moral clarity and leadership of our great friend, the United States, the leader of the free world. President Biden has been clear from the very first moment that Israel has a right and a duty to respond and defend itself against that October 7th massacre, that it's legitimate for Israel to dismantle Hamas, that Hamas is like ISIS. It's worse than ISIS. He ordered from the very first moment the American army to make sure that the Israeli army has all the supplies that it needs in order to complete its mission of demolishing Hamas. And just today, we saw the President of the United States, the free world, saying that based on all the evidence that he has seen, the evidence that is freely available on the internet for anyone who wants to see it, that problem, that explosion at the hospital yesterday was not caused by Israel. It was caused by Palestinian terrorists. And I would advise your viewers, anyone who's watching and wants to go into my Twitter, you can look my name on Twitter. I have a whole thread explaining, putting out all the evidence step by step, showing that beyond a shadow of a doubt, what happened yesterday was the result of a Palestinian Islamic Jihad rocket. That evidence is compelling, and that evidence has convinced the President of the United States.
All right, we continue tracking all the ground reports. That was an exclusive conversation with Siddhant Mishra in conversation with Israel's PMO top official. Now, my colleague Abhishek Jha is in Israel. He's been reporting from Ground Zero. He tells you the tale of death and destruction as to what this war has really claimed. Have a look.
These are the bullets and bullet marks because of the firing. The families living in here, kids, everybody ran to some safety but did not protect themselves, and much of the population here who tried to survive, who tried to run away, was killed. This must have been some nicely built home of some family, but what is left now is burnt, ashes, and walls riddled with bullet marks and charred body parts that are still somewhere around, and it's all destruction that is left behind of what could have been a normal, happy living family's house in Kibbutz Be'eri.
This is the tragedy of war, that when it happens, it does damage those humanitarian, locations, the locations which actually help people in the hour of crisis. These are also not spared, and this is the Gaza hospital that is in Ashkelon, and that was also the target of one of the rockets that fell on this hospital, damaging the structure and creating panic among the people.
People are not very hopeful about how soon the normalcy will return in the city, but they do hope that probably it will take few weeks or few months before the situation could be as safe and secure that people who have fled from the city would be returning back to their home. Meanwhile, the entire city and the perimeter of the city has been taken over by the Israeli Defense Forces. Tanks, artilleries being fired, Israeli jets also flying over Gaza and dropping ammunition or missiles targeting Hamas locations. Of damage to the civilian population in Palestine, and about 2,400 or more than that may be swiftly shifting towards the humanitarian crisis that is emerging in the Gaza Strip because of the number of casualties that has been going on there, humanitarian crisis that has emerged, food supplies shortage, medical supplies shortage, doctors having been killed, children having been killed. So the gory images of Israeli Israeli tragedy are quickly being reported in Gaza Strip, and that is where the balance of geopolitics remains. We'll have to see whether the Israeli offensive will continue on the Gaza Strip or the diplomacy will take center stage, and there will.
We continue that story, tracking that story and much more here on CNN News 18. We'll continue getting you the ground reports, slipping into a very short break.
Dalhousie.
Words fail me. Tonight, hundreds of people were killed horrifically in a massive strike at Ali Arab Hospital in Gaza City, including patients, healthcare workers and families that had been seeking refuge in and around the hospital. Once again, the most vulnerable. This is totally unacceptable. At least 6 people were also killed this afternoon when an UNRWA school was hit in Al-Maghazi refugee camp in Gaza's middle area. The school had been serving as a shelter for some 4,000 people seeking refuge. Hospitals are sacrosanct, and they must be protected at all costs. We don't yet know the full scale of this carnage, but what is clear is that the violence and killing must stop at once. All states with influence must do everything in their power to bring an end to this horrendous situation. Civilians must be protected and humanitarian aid must be allowed in to reach those in need as a matter of urgency. Those found responsible must be held to account.
We have seen a devastating loss of innocent life since the attacks on Israel by the terrorist group Hamas. But the scenes from the explosion at a Gaza city hospital are deeply distressing, and it is clear that there has been a devastating loss of life. Every innocent life matters, whether it is Israeli or Palestinian. Our thoughts are with those killed, those injured, and their loved ones. The protection of civilian lives must come first, as the Parliament said in its resolution that we carried on Monday. And respect for international humanitarian law is paramount. We condemn any indiscriminate attacks and targeting of civilian infrastructure, including hospitals. And Australia joins with others in calling for international law to always be upheld.
Thank you very much.
Welcome back. We continue to track all the latest stories coming in, and this one is coming in from the state of Telangana. We are getting some news that Asauddin Owaisi, the leader of AIMIM, has called for a protest, and this is against the strikes that have happened in the city of Gaza, killing about 500 people. He has invited the heads of all political parties for this particular protest slash rally, but no political speeches or demonstrations are going to be allowed. I want to get across to my colleague Swastika Das and get more details and perspective on this entire story. Swastika, if you can hear me, tell us more about what Mr. Owaisi has said.
Well, Mr. Owaisi has called in for a protest at the party headquarters here in Hyderabad, Darussalam, on the 23rd, condemning the violence that has been unleashed on Palestine, and his stand has been clear from day one. He's called this war crimes being unleashed by Israel, and he's also, in fact, lashed out at Prime Minister Narendra Modi for not coming out in support of Palestine, despite India writing to Palestine saying that we stand with you several occasions in the past. Mr. Owaisi has also in fact called Netanyahu a devil in several of his speeches in the recent times, and now in the wake of the hospital attack in Gaza, Mr. Owaisi has called in protest. Interestingly, and remains to be seen which are the political parties that come out, because he said that this is a non-political protest, not encouraging any speeches here. His ally here, in fact, the Bharat Rashtra Samiti, so far hasn't spoken on the Israel-Palestine issue except for condemning the violence that has been going on.
Swastika Das getting us all the details on that very important story. And in fact, Mr. Asaduddin Owaisi and his party, including the left parties, have taken a very different position from that of the government of India, and they have openly supported Palestinians and their suffering. And more importantly, they've also said that Israel is a country that needs to be questioned at this point in time. The left parties have even gone ahead and called Israel a terrorist state. Let's also get you once again to some more reports which are coming in. Let's have a look at this report on the blame game that has erupted after the strikes happened on Gaza, claiming the lives of 500 people.
Hours after a strike on a Gazan hospital that claimed hundreds of lives, it remained unclear who was responsible for the bloodiest single incident since the Israel-Hamas conflict began, with officials on the two sides trading blame. Israel's military spokesman Daniel Hagari said its forces analyzed its systems and found that rockets fired by, quote, terrorists in Gaza were to blame.
Intelligence from few sources that we have in our hands indicates that the Islamic Jihad is responsible for the failed rocket launch which hit the hospital in Gaza.
But the Palestinian envoy to the United Nations, Riyad Mansour, denied that story.
It is a lie, and the Israeli spokesperson of the army, about a week ago, made a statement in which he said, evacuate the hospitals are target.
Mansour urged US President Joe Biden to help stop the carnage against the Palestinian people. In a statement on social media, Biden said he was outraged by the hospital strike, adding that he had directed his national security team to find out exactly what had happened. According to the White House, Biden will also be asking some tough questions of Israel's prime minister during a planned trip to the country on Wednesday. But Biden's diplomatic mission has now been upended by the hospital blast. Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas cancelled a meeting with the US president due to take place in Jordan after Biden's Israel visit. At an urgent meeting with local officials, Abbas called the blast an ugly massacre that cannot be tolerated or allowed to pass without accountability. The deadly hospital strike comes as a humanitarian crisis grows in Gaza, with Israel cutting off power, water, food, fuel and medicine supplies into the enclave, intensifying an existing blockade there.
الحقيقة إسرائيل منذ تشكيلها إلى الآن، منذ احتلال هذه المنطقة، وهي تقوم على اختراق القانون الدولي الإنساني. اتفاقيات جنيف واضحة بهذا الشأن، عدم المساس في أي مراكز صحية أو أي مستشفيات، لكن ما يجري هو عبارة عن جرائم إنسانية، لكن للأسف بغطاء أمريكي.
أنا مع عائلتي أحاول الهرب إلى بر الأمان. ابني يشعر بالرعب.
خافش يابا. خافش. خافش.
أقول له لا تخاف يا بني لا تخاف. لكن الحقيقة هي أنا خائف جدا.
اسمي إبراهيم دهمان، أنا صحفي في CNN، ولسنوات عديدة ساعدت في تغطية قصص الناس في غزة، لكنني لم أكن أظن أبدا أنني سأصبح جزءا من القصة.
افتح السيارة.
يوم الاثنين الماضي كنت في الرمال في مدينة غزة عندما طلبوا مني الإخلاء.
اطلع على أول حاجة على شو اسمه.
ولكن أين أذهب؟
فبيتي وعائلتي وحياتي كلها في الرمال مثل كثيرين غيري. ليس لدي أي مكان آخر أذهب إليه.
وصلنا إلى الفندق قريب. هناك صحفيون وعائلات وحتى أشخاص بمفردهم. نحن الآن جزء من النازحين بين أكثر من 1,000,000 شخص طلب منهم إخلاء شمال غزة.
Sderot, a mile from Gaza, is deserted. 90% of residents have gone. Even abandoned pets are learning when to run. Bolting with incoming rocket warnings. It is an eerie place. The police station, overrun by Hamas 10 days ago, bulldozed flat.
You can hear the sound of the drones in the sky all the time. Over here, the shell casings from the firefight still here. Bullet holes in the wall still there. It's like everyone is waiting for the next move.
For local officials, that next move is President Biden's visit.
I don't know what Biden is thinking. I wish I knew. If I could be a little bird in his ear, I tell him, hey, if you take a stance now, I believe that if they will take a stance and not fold, we'll be able to get our people back, all the hostages.
Over the years, Sderot has become synonymous with resistance to Hamas's rockets. It's one of the most fired upon Israeli towns.
But America is a true friend.
Today, politicians here to show their solidarity. Boaz Bismuth is a member of the Prime Minister's Likud party.
We shall never put our friends in America in a position where they will feel uncomfortable, meaning we're not going against civilians.
And Biden, is he going to tell you that to respect that and for you to take that very tough decision? Do not go into Gaza right now, because that will just inflame the region.
I think that President Biden and any American president knows exactly the morale of the Israeli army, and we know how to put limits to ourselves. But there is one thing we shall not put a limit, is the fact that Hamas will not exist.
To do that, a military ground incursion into Gaza appears inevitable.
Along the border with Gaza here, there's a real sense of calm before a possible storm. The number of strikes compared to the last few days seems to be down. And that town you can see there with the tower blocks, that's Beit Hanun. It was one of the first places the Israelis targeted in their 2014 incursion. And it could be again now. So what does this happen?
Tour guide Robbie Berman came to Sderot to tell journalists about his fund to offer Gazans money for helping free hostages.
He's a Palestinian.
His message for President Biden is typical of many here.
The pressure on Arabic countries to allow those innocent Arabs, those innocent Palestinians in Gaza who are not supportive of Hamas, to get them visas to go into other Arab countries.
And all those Palestinians that would go out into other Arab countries, does that not for Palestinians look like 48 or 67 just losing their homeland again?
Yeah, and it's sad. It's sad for the Palestinians. Life is sad, war is sad, collateral damage is sad. I feel for the innocent Palestinians. Enough, we can't live under this terror anymore.
More of that terror in Sderot just hours before President Biden's anticipated arrival. Several missiles from Gaza crashing into the town.
This looks like the fin of the missile over here. And you can see where it came. It smashed through the outer wall, through that window, through this wall here, ending up here. Everything inside the house torn apart. Fortunately, when it hit, no one was home.
Hard to remember a time in the Mideast when an American president's powers were more tested.
And getting you some exclusive information here on CNN News 18 on The Nation at 5. This is the statement of Asad Majid Khan, who is the former ambassador of Pakistan to the United States. This is a statement that has been recorded under the various provisions 161 of CRPC and is an ongoing investigation into the Cyphergate controversy. Imran Khan, in his statement, had earlier argued that there was a conspiracy to destabilize his government and get him out of power by the United States of America, and US had categorically denied all those allegations. Now, in this particular statement, Asad Majid Khan goes on to point out that, in fact, whatever meetings he had in Washington, in US, with whoever the delegates and top functionaries were all official meetings, and there was no communication which was unofficial. Imran Khan right now is facing charges of treason and breaching national security when it comes to this particular case. And in this statement, you can see, let's go to this portion here where what he talks about, that I had suggested that demarche should be issued to USA both in Islamabad and in Washington. The views expressed by Donald Liu were first responded in the form of demarche issued on the 31st of March 2022 after a meeting in Islamabad. I did not meet or communicate directly or indirectly with ex-Prime Minister or ex-SPM during the period which was earlier said. As a foreign service professional, I believe that Cypher episode has undermined the integrity of our communication system. Imran Khan, as I earlier argued, is facing some serious charges of treason and breaching national security. Dozens of cases have been filed against him. But after the Tosha Khana case, this is one of the most serious cases against him, where he faces the stringent possible punishment under the Penal Code of Pakistan. Let me also try and connect with my colleagues and get more details on this story. Siddhant will join us on the broadcast, but Imran Khan, who's facing right now various cases and a tough battle with Pakistani judiciary, this particular statement is clearly something which is going to be troublesome for him. He has said on repeated occasions, on multiple occasions in the public domain and also before the court, that there was a conspiracy to destabilize his government, and it was happening at the behest of the US administration. Now, the former US ambassador who was on duty at that time, Asad Majid Khan, is pointing out that whatever communication happened, whatever was being done was all in official capacity, and there is no evidence on record to show what Imran Khan is saying is actually true. It only goes on to increase the troubles of Imran Khan, who, as I said, is facing charges, multiple graft and corruption charges, while he occupied the position of the leader of the country. Right now, it's a caretaker government in the country of Pakistan. Imran Khan does have a lot of popular support on the ground, especially after the kind of investigations that were launched against him. There were various people, his party supporters, who had come out on the streets and demanded that this witch hunt should end. Imran Khan is also something who's picked a bone, who's picked a quarrel with none other than the Pakistani army and Pakistani administration, from once being the blue-eyed poster boy of Pakistani army to this all-out rivalry that he faces right now. The cases are only going to further dampen his prospects of coming back to active politics or to occupy a position of power. So those are the details which are emerging. We'll try and get more voices and details on this particular story which is coming in at this point in time. But the fact that on record, as in evidence, nothing could be established in a court of law is something which is going to worry Imran Khan, because in this particular case, he made some very tall charges, some very tall claims. None of them have been substantiated by the subsequent statements which have been recorded. Mr. Rabinder Sachdev is joining us on the broadcast. Mr. Sachdev, here's a statement of Dr. Asad Majid Khan, who is the former ambassador of Pakistan to the United States, and he points out that any communication that he had in US with the functionaries, with the diplomats on the certain dates that were quoted by Imran Khan was all in official capacity. Does it further damage the narrative that has been put out by former Pakistani Prime Minister Imran Khan? Mr. Sachdev, am I audible to you? Can you hear me?
Yeah, hi, I can answer. I'm in the car, so a little disturbance, but I think now it's better. Yeah, please.
Right. I hope you're aware about the story that we're talking about. This is the Cyphergate controversy, Imran Khan and the entire legal controversy he has landed himself into. And more importantly, the statement of Dr. Asad Majid Khan, the former ambassador of Pakistan to US. He has given a statement to the Pakistani court that none of the allegations made by Imran Khan can actually be substantiated, and that entire bogey of claims that Imran Khan had made, that there was some US conspiracy to destabilize his government, that doesn't seem to be holding the ground. Mr. Sajdev.
Yeah, I mean, thank you. No, that definitely is quite something that is such a that Imran Khan was claiming were non-existent or were not there. It further hurts the credibility of Imran Khan, but at the same time, I think Imran Khan has been sufficiently handicapped for the time being and for the foreseeable future. So this will probably add another nail into his political future.
Absolutely. It does make his political future far more uncertain. Thank you, Mr. Sajdev, for joining us on the broadcast and giving us your perspective. We'll continue tracking this story and much more on the other side of a quick break. Please stay with us.
"6 p.m. Saying it like it is. Without fear or favor. Plain speak. 7 p.m. When the facts speak for themselves. Just like that. The hard facts. 8 p.m. Where India comes first. Always. The right stand. 9 p.m. Where the big stories are simplified. Bite by bite. Gross tax. 10 p.m. Worldview. Indian Insight. Vantage. News 18 Prime. Weeknights 6 to 11. Brought to you by
Words fail me. Tonight, hundreds of people were killed horrifically in a massive strike at Ali Arab Hospital in Gaza City, including patients, healthcare workers and families that had been seeking refuge in and around the hospital. Once again, the most vulnerable. This is totally unacceptable. At least 6 people were also killed this afternoon when an UNRWA school was hit in Al-Maghazi refugee camp in Gaza's middle area. The school had been serving as a shelter for some 4,000 people seeking refuge. Hospitals are sacrosanct, and they must be protected at all costs. We don't yet know the full scale of this carnage, but what is clear is that the violence and killing must stop at once. All states with influence must do everything in their power to bring an end to this horrendous situation. Civilians must be protected and humanitarian aid must be allowed in to reach those in need as a matter of urgency. Those found responsible must be held to account.
We have seen a devastating loss of innocent life since the attacks on Israel by the terrorist group Hamas. But the scenes from the explosion at a Gaza City hospital are deeply distressing, and it is clear that there has been a devastating loss of life. Every innocent life matters, whether it is Israeli or Palestinian. Our thoughts are with those killed, those injured, and their loved ones. The protection of civilian lives must come first, as the Parliament said in its resolution that we carried on Monday. And respect for international humanitarian law is paramount. We condemn any indiscriminate attacks and targeting of civilian infrastructure, including hospitals. And Australia joins with others in calling for it.
Welcome back. You're watching The Nation at 5. Let's cut across to some more ground reports that we get to you from Gaza and also from Israel. That conflict that's going on in West Asia that has dominated the mind of the entire world. My colleague Abhishek Jha is on the ground and he spoke to former Israeli army chief. Listen.
If you could just let us know how this thing unfolded and how Israeli security agencies could not sense what kind of, crisis situation you will see this has become because of the sort of failure that Israeli agencies could not sense this major onslaught of terrorism is coming to Israel.
Well, let's start from the fact that on the 7th of October, early morning, we were caught by surprise. We were not well prepared on the front line, and the circumstances are known, all published. We lost many civilians, and unfortunately, as one from the military establishment in the past, I would say that we failed in defending our civilians, which is the main goal of any military establishment. First of all, to push out all those terrorists from our borders, from our land, and from then on, we are preparing ground attack.
How are you going to differentiate between the terrorist and the civilian casualty? Because I think that is one of the reasons the world's attention is quickly shifting to the crisis, humanitarian crisis.
The whole idea is to push back the civilians out of the northern part of Gaza Strip, and they already did. And then it will enable us to act freely.
Well, let's cut across to some latest news coming in, and this is an exclusive bit of information that we get for you from the state of Manipur. Top government sources have told CNN News 18 that the situation in Manipur right now is under control. It will take some more time for the wounds to heal, but compared to the last few months and last few weeks, the kind of hostilities that we have seen between the two communities, that have come down and things are slowly limping back to normalcy. Let me try and cut across to Kamalika, who's with us on the broadcast. Kamalika, give us more details. What's the situation on the ground? What are you hearing?
See, first of all, the situation is positive, and on ground, the thing seems to be falling in place. So that is one very positive point, because for the last 15 days, we have not heard of much of any such violence incidents in Manipur. So what the government has planned already, constant Naka checking, constant raids are there. Almost 1,500 weapons have been recovered. And now the important job of the government is to restore the essential services, to restore the other services. So special government has given special instructions to operate this essential service and other service so that people get that easily. Another important point is the deployment of forces and the cooperation with public is very important, and that they are doing in both the sides. And most importantly, both the community chiefs are now started talking to each other, and they can do normal business. That's a very positive point. Where both the sides, there was an effort so that both the sides talk. The chiefs of the leaders have started talking. Another thing is the NIA, the CBI investigation. All these things are taking place. NIA has also arrested a couple of people. CBI has also arrested. And investigation under Supreme Court seat work is going properly. So concern still is that both of the communities, they are not staying together. So weapons have not gone out still from Manipur. These are certain things, they are because the situation is fragile and no sitting between communities are taking place.
Yeah.
But the big news is obviously Manipur is now coming back to normalcy.
Manipur is slowly coming back to normalcy, as you pointed out. Kamalika, it's important that we go back in time and talk about the unprecedented scale of violence that we had seen between the two communities. And I remember your ground reports when, a person from one community could not go to another community. There were women from both the communities which were at the receiving end, and Home Minister Amit Shah had to go to the state to take stock of the situation. The opposition had made this a huge issue and demanded answers from the government as to why peace and stability has not been restored in Manipur. What has led to calming of tensions in the state? Was this a sustained strategy of the central government, state government, or actually at the community level there have been efforts and steps of trust building and peace building which are very important?
Definitely one important point is that now the state government and the central government, both the governments were working together in to bring peace in Manipur. So, and obviously the role of the security forces, the role of the local police out there, and the fact that the central government was in talks with both the sides, with the Kuki side and as well as the Meitei side, and the governors specifically, going into the relief camps, that is very important for in both the sides. The fact that this projection was there, that both the sides are our people and both the sides needs to understand, and this is violence is not a solution, and obviously numbers should be given to the army. Army definitely, the barricades which they did, the buffer zones that are created in Manipur, that really helped helped in that bad time.
Thank you, Kamalika, for putting all the details into perspective for us. That's the plan of the central government, the state government, and of course efforts at the community level, which become very, very important. We'll continue tracking that and much more. It's a wrap on this edition of The Nation at 5. Plain Speak follows. Thank you so much for watching.
6 p.m. Saying it like it is. Without fear or favor. Plain Speak. 7 p.m. when the facts speak for themselves, just like that. The hard facts. 8 p.m. where India comes first. Always. The right stand. 9 p.m. where the big stories are simplified. Bite by bite. Prostax. 10 p.m. Worldview. Indian Insight. Vantage. News 18 Prime. Weeknights 6 to 11.
Welcome everyone. Thanks a lot for staying with us. You're watching Plain Speak with me, Shivani Gupta. The Israel-Hamas war has taken a deadly turn. Just a day ahead of US President Joe Biden's visit to Israel, a hospital was allegedly bombed in one of Gaza's densely populated areas. According to initial reports, over 500 people lost their lives after this strike. Now, this is what initially came to light from the Hamas-run ministry in Gaza and shocked the world. But in subsequent hours, the story continued to turn. Israeli authorities have completely denied striking this hospital and instead released images and sound evidence to